my name is Ilana Lydia, and I'm the artistic director here at B3 Theater. Tonight's experiment is a safe space for our artists to try out new things. We have new words being spoken. We have designers who, some of them are trying their hand at design areas that they've never tried before. And we have actors who may not be cast otherwise in a part that they're playing tonight. And we're also striving to make digital theater accessible to all audience and artists. So what's going to happen tonight is there will be some short presentations by each of the designers and the director before each one act. And then the reading will begin and a PowerPoint presentation will come on, which will kind of bring together each of the design elements in a way that you can see while the acting is going on.
Hi, everyone. I'm JP Clemente, and it's truly my pleasure to be a part of B3 Theater and a part of this project and all the projects that we're doing. This project and a lot of our Reason to Be projects really is a glimpse into our theater world, on how designers and production teams, the creative teams work together, and how that's all then brought together and presented by the actors.
Thank you, JP. And now I'd like to hand you over to Gabriel Scadero. He's tonight's director and the glue for both of these shows together. Gabe?
Hi, my name is Gabriel Scadero. I've worked with B3 before. I was an actor when Ilana directed me in Polyphemus. It was a very wonderful time. Since then, I've worked with her from a director-producer level one other time at with directing Hogswatch at Side Theater, and she welcomed me back to this project, and she showed me these two scripts, and when I signed up, I was randomly picked as everyone else was, and I was super excited and happy for that. So real quick for our first show, If It's Any Constellations, what I love about this show is this heightened, surreal, whimsical world that you're going to be walking into, and it was a joy to talk to different designers about that, be able to explore what kind of world we're seeing. And I really love the language and the dialogue and how the characters talk to each other. It makes me think of like Alice in Wonderland, but it also has hints of fables and stories and old stories of how things were created, and you'll get to see a little bit of that. For me, this is a story about two people trapped trying to break free. With that said, I'm going to introduce it to our first designer, Kayla Cuevas.
Hi everyone, I'm Kayla Cuevas, and I was the set designer for both plays, If It's Any Constellation and Callison Monroe. So I've worked with B3 Theater before. I was stage manager for Rosemary's Baby, and then I applied to this, and then I got in, and I never have done set design before, so it was really exciting to try something new out. So what I'm going to do with this presentation is take you through my conceptual process. So here's our first slide. So this was a rough sketch of what I wanted the set to look like for If It's Any Constellation. So as you can see, I have the majority of the space filled up by the garden, and then next to it is the kitchen. It's a very small claustrophobic space, which will make sense once the play begins and you'll understand. And you can see that we have flowers here in the garden and statues and the sky. The sky is a big part If It's Any Constellation. So here you'll see the statues. These are just some rough sketches I did. I had 3 different categories, just trying to narrow it down. But the reason I chose to do statues was because in the script it said that there were statues in the garden. So I decided, okay, what kind of statues should there be? So I decided to take the route of choosing the middle column, which were the animals and which are the creatures featured in this play and who talk to the main characters. So here you'll see the statues. These are just some rough sketches I did. I had 3 different categories, just trying to narrow it down. But the reason I chose to do statues was because in the script it said that there were statues in the garden. So I decided, okay, what kind of statues should there be? So I decided to take the route of choosing the middle column, which were the animals and which are the creatures featured in this play and who talk to the main characters. And then there is a rough conception of my kitchen. So it's very basic, but basically to go on the whimsical kind of side and Alice in Wonderland kind of view of this story, I have a giant clock, disproportional furniture, and kind of something's going on, something's off, very small claustrophobic space. And then our final slide will go on to viewing the final products of what were meant to be statues. I chose to have the dragonfly instead of as a statue as a wind chime, just because the 3 statues took up too much space, so I had to get creative. So here's my dragonfly. As you can see, the eyes kind of have a little starry going on, constellation. And then next should be my bear and my snake. So there's the snake, and as you can see, it has the mask, trying to go with that whimsical kind of vibe. And yeah, so those are all my conceptual pieces, and so now we'll be taking it to Juliana Jackson.
Thank you, Kayla. My name is Juliana Jackson, and I have been a makeup artist and hair designer for over 30 years. I've been very honored to receive a few Zoni Awards and am nominated for one currently. I've worked on Cats and Lion King and Into the Woods. I worked with JP on Annie and Scrooged and Rouge, which was so much fun. And I was so intrigued and honored to be invited to be the makeup artist and hair designer for B3 Theater for these shows tonight. Now I thought, how am I going to do hair and makeup on no actors in front of me with my hands? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw, and I'm going to color, and I'm going to build a picture for you to imagine what these wonderful actors would be looking like if they were before you on a stage. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and have some of the characters jump up here on the screen. So who you're looking at right here is you are looking at Ollie, and she is the granddaughter of Oompa. And my inspiration for him is my own grandfather. And so as I designed his hair and his simple face, I was thinking of my grandfather. And this is, again, this is Ollie, the young girl who introduces the play, her and her grandfather. The next slide would be our spacesuit man. And I took the inspiration for him directly from the script. It talked about him having very nondescript features, very simple, not a lot of effort put into himself. So he just has some time to just sort of slick back his hair before moving into his day. And then we come to his wife. Now she begins like this, very simple, just like Spacesuit Man, her husband. But then she evolves. She starts to care a bit more, and she becomes a little bit more free and glamorous, as you can see in the second drawing. Now we come to my favorites, which are the most whimsical characters, the snake. The snake has wicked eyes and a wicked mouth with very pale skin and scales on the face. The inspiration for the hair was Ursula, the sea witch from The Little Mermaid. That's what inspired me for that. The next characters are Dancing Bear. And Dancing Bear is warm, curly hair and kind of fuzzy. And I imagined him with this hat and bow tie like a circus bear, something like that, dancing around. The final slide that I want to talk about and the character that I designed was the dragonfly. In fact, I'm paying homage with my necklace to the dragonfly tonight. And she has a very graceful, ethereal look. The color inspirations were that of tangerine and violet, and again, embracing that sort of Alice in Wonder-like feel. She also, Dragonfly, has swirling, shimmering gold antenna and tattoos on her face. Now I want to go ahead and introduce you to our wonderful costume designer, Miss Connie Galener. Take it away.
Thank you, Juliana. My name is Connie Galener, and this is my first experience with the B3 Theater, and I'm really happy to be here. When I started Costuming, I was only 17 years old. I was a Catholic schoolgirl and my boyfriend went to public school. He had a band and I made them costumes and they did Kiss. So I made Kiss costumes as my first experience making costumes for others. From there, I went and have been creating costumes for my own theatrical company for 25 years. I designed and built those costumes, and a lot of that was upcycling on budget. As I said, this is my first foray into designing costumes for the B3 Theater and of course for the brave new world that is the Zoom stage. The Spacesuit Man, I originally drew that picture not having yet read the script, but reading that brief description of each character, and I made a NASA costume. That's what I expected a spacesuit man to look like, but no, our screenplay writer, our playwright, had another idea. So he was described as being bulky, and his wife described him as his taste being awful, and he was to wear a tie getting ready to go to work. So there he is, poor guy, not so hot, but he's ready to go. And his wife, I thought that his wife was very strict and very staid in the beginning of the play. And then as I got to know her, and as you will get to know her, she is more of a free spirit. She likes her freedom. She has her own ideas of her place in the globe and in the universe. And that's reflected in her choice of her costume. Next I have the snake. Can we see the snake, please? There's the snake. I did make a shadow of the human next to him so that you could see how he would stand inside of that costume as well. I took what we know of snakes for. We know them to be kind of tricky characters, kind of troublesome characters, and not always honest and straightforward. So I went with a snake that could move on the stage and also let the audience know what his intentions are. Next, if I can see the dancing bear, there he is. It was suggested that we use a red fez on his head. So I added the colorful red bow tie to give him that circusy fun feel. And the bulky costume is to give him a little jiggle and a little wiggle when we think of a bear dancing, and to give him some character in the way and freedom in the way that he moves as well. Let's see, next we have our dragonfly. No, you don't see roller skates on this dragonfly, but I do imagine the actor wearing roller skates and kind of zooming around on the stage and having a great time and flitting about, as is true to his character. He is a bit vulnerable, and his coloring comes straight from the script, and in that script it is orange and purples and translucent, and so I went with that. I like the forearms and intended for them to be used either independently with radio controls or with them tied to the other arm so that they can move, much like a big bird. When he moves one arm, the other arm moves, and that would give some more animation to that fun and flying character. All right, that's what I have. And next up, may I introduce to you Armando Robles, who is providing props for our production today. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie, and welcome everyone. It's great to have you join us. First off, this is my first venture with B3, and actually returning to the theater after probably 25, 30 years. And also, I'm honored and grateful to Ilana and B3 and JP for showcasing the next show you'll be seeing this evening, Kayla Monroe. For if it's any consolation, I'm doing props. I'm doing props for this show and the next, and props are the items that you'll see the actors actually using. In this first thing, we'll have the spacesuit man with the shears, and what we did with the shears is we kind of gave it a fun look, because as Kayla had mentioned earlier, he loves his garden, hence the big space we give the garden on stage. So we kind of animated, or we did animate the shears to kind of almost, I forget the name of the cartoon, but it looks like a really mean looking machine there. But that's our shears and clippers that we'll be using for tonight's production. And then we have the shovel also. These tools, these garden tools are useful friends, I call them, because Spacesuit Man is, again, he loves his garden and he just likes being there most of the time, even before going to work. And with the shovel, it turns into this friend, as I mentioned, and also, as you'll see in the play or hear in the play, it becomes a protector. There's a scene where he needs to protect himself from some of the adverse elements, and he uses the shovel to protect him from such. And also, most of the props will come from the garden. We have the garden, the flowers that the Spacesuit Man takes from the garden to give to his wife, puts them in the nice little case there. We gave that a galactic look to it. But the wife is not is into the husband as much, so we kind of gave the flower not such a lovely look or happy look. So that's what he sees there in the center, and this is what she sees there, bottom left. Not a very happy flower. So we get that, and then we have it here, just kind of falling, petals falling down, and hoping to come back to life somewhere. And you'll see in the play what happens with the flowers. And then we have the coffee pot. He's in the kitchen giving the flowers to the wife. The coffee is on. So we've got this nice coffee pot going. And then we have the fun coffee pot, the whimsical and surreal looking thing. Give it the Alice in Wonderland look, as David mentioned earlier. And we have also, let's see, the poison lemonade. So you'll see you'll hear in the play where there's a need to take care of one of the characters in the play. And the only way to do that is to eliminate the character. And the only way to do that is to maybe poison the character. So those are the props you'll be seeing. And Spacesuit Man will take care of all that for you. And with that, I will give it to our sound person, Charlotte Strahorn.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Charlotte Strahorn. This is my third production with B3. I've worked with Ilana as stage manager for Be My Little Baby. I've been on stage with Gabe for Hogswatch, and worked with Ilana and Kayla again for Rosemary's Baby. It's been a festive time here doing sound and media design, something I've never done before. Had a huge learning curve, and 3 very wonderful people going, yeah, okay, let's try that and see what happens. So subsequently, I wound up with 48 slides and 12 sound cues, and we'll see how this all works together. So first, let's talk about media. What I did was design media that matched the depth of the character. So the first one you see is Oompa, and his wisdom and knowledge is reflected by 1,000 stars. Next is Ollie, and Ollie is youthful innocence because she is kind of curious but still wondering what happens next. The next slide is Spacesuit Man, who's got his head in the stars and in the clouds and staring off into space and not really, while he loves his garden, he's not really paying attention to much else. Next, we have the wife, and she is feeling isolated. So I titled this one Alone at Sea, because she's not really connected with her husband or with anything else that's going on around her. The next slide is Dancing Bear. Is a bear in the woods? Yes, he is. So you'll see his slide repeat again later in a diminishing capacity, which is fun to create. Next slide is the snake in the grass. And the snake in the grass starts out light and bright and airy. And later on in the show, you'll see where he's diminished into darkness. And again, it's a little trick of PowerPoint that I learned a long time ago that was really festive to create. The next slide is the golden sky. The golden sky is for the dragonfly, bright, airy, whimsical, yellow, having a great time and learning life lessons. My screen, the wonderful thing about Zoom is that Zoom does not share well with others when it comes to
Thank you so much to all the designers, to the director, and to JP for that presentation. It was awesome. You guys rock. So I wanted to introduce who our talented cast are. We have Lorraine Taylor as Spacesuit Man, William Black Pavarotti Broyles IV as Dancing Bear, Amy Bjorklund as Dragonfly, Annalise Wisdom as Snake, Susan Zhu as Wife, Marissa Chin as Oompa, and Shayla Ferrero as Ollie.
Right, everybody. I hope you had a nice time watching everything. It's time to sit back, relax, and we're going to be going into our first production, which is If It's Any Constellation by Jim Arthur.